Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Realm News. This is the place where your host, the Dark Lord, puts the real in Realm and expands your mind one block at a time, where I combine real-world knowledge with our beloved game of Minecraft. Today is a very special episode. Why? Because you, the people, chose it. This is a Realm News first, and I plan on doing this more often. Yes, this episode was picked from a poll where I provided 3 choices. I asked this: which of these 3 options would you like to see me make into a hashtag podcast episode? Lily pads, chocolate, or fireflies are the 3 that I provided. I will admit, we only had 6 votes altogether, but Fireflies ultimately won with 66.7% of the votes. Chocolate came in second with 33.33% of the votes, and Lily Pads received a big fat goose egg or 0 votes. I'm not too surprised by the results. Who doesn't love Fireflies? So, that is today's episode. After poll time, I will then take you into the real, where we will examine the real world Firefly and learn a bit about their biology and some very intriguing facts about them. After that, we will portal into the realm and look at the Minecraft's Firefly Bush. There, we will examine its history, uses, and all the other facts that I can dig up about this glowing plant. When you are all in a settled, comfortable, safe position, ready to listen to premium audio quality from Realm News to your eardrums, then let's get the show started. It's poll time! Welcome to Poll Time, where we hear feedback directly from the Minecraft community. If you are new to the show, this is where I read off a question that I had posted on Reddit and attached a poll to it in order to receive feedback and public sentiments on Minecraft topics, items, drops, and anything else related to Minecraft. With that said, let me tell you what question I posed to the community. Are you going to use Copper Golem Statues? I said this as well. I am curious to know, since we are going to receive the Copper Golem statue, will you utilize it in your world or worlds? I know that I will more than likely be using them to garnish the eaves and exterior parts of my palaces. What about you? And that is exactly what I plan on doing with them, folks. I am curious to know what you will do with your Copper Golem statues. Let's jump into the poll results, shall we? This poll had a pretty decent amount of voters, 73 to be precise. I provided 2 options to choose from. 1, yes, I will use it. 2, no, I will not use it. I shall start with the winner, which thankfully is the first option. The group that chose yes, I will use it. They received 50 votes, which translates out to be 64.3% of the pie. The loser of the group earned 23 votes, which makes 31.5% of the total votes. The winner clearly won by more than twice the votes, and I couldn't be happier. Now that we know the results, I would like to now move on to comments. A repeat commenter who goes by Parallax Jack says, quote, probably, but we'll have to redesign my storage system entirely. LOL. Looking forward to it, actually. End quote. I think many people are in the same boat, Parallax Jack. I'm truly sorry that you will have to go through all the effort to revamp your storage facilities, but I think it will be worth it in the long run, friend. I always appreciate your feedback on Poll Time, and I hope to keep receiving comments from you. Thank you so much, Parallax Jack. My next commenter is another familiar name. In fact, they have been a guest on the show multiple times, and I always love to hear their comments. Nightstake says, quote, I think they look pretty cool underwater ruins. We actually see some copper villager statues hidden within the massive ocean monument that appeared in the Hidden Depths DLC of Minecraft Dungeons, end quote. They attached a very they attach a photo to that of to the quote-unquote Copper Villager statues hidden within the massive ocean monument. It was a really cool photo, folks. And I responded back saying, quote, "Oh man, I love that reply. I never would have thought about using them underwater. That's ingenious. The color would go great there," end quote. And it would. I think the varying degrees of oxidized copper golem statues underwater would fit that watery aesthetic very well. I mean, it makes me think of the old-timey copper hat scuba diving suits. In fact, could we get those, please, Mojang? Anyways, Nightsteak, my friend, as always, I think that is a fantastic idea, and I think I will be incorporating that into my realm of ombre dieu. I do, in fact, have a couple of underwater facilities so I can go underwater for the experience. One of my guest bedrooms in my palace called Lord's Landing is underwater, and I think that would be the perfect place to put copper golem statues as well. With that said, I have one more commenter before we wrap up poll time today. They are one of the two Realm News subreddit moderators who goes by exact_Western52, who says, quote, "I love them so very much. They are such a cool addition to the game. It makes decoration a lot cooler. I think I might use them as a cool backdrops," end quote. I fully agree that these are very cool, and using them as backdrops is an excellent idea. I will be curious to learn exactly how you arrange them into backdrops. Exact_Western52, thank you so much for that comment, and I appreciate your hard work over at Realm News' subreddit. Please keep leaving comments, and don't forget to join the Realm News subreddit, folks. With that said, I would like to end poll time there today and make our way into the real portion of the show. I am ready when you are. Welcome to The Real, my friends. We are here to examine the real-world Firefly and learn some really interesting facts about them. Such as, did you know that according to Firefly.org, the Firefly belongs to the family called Lampyridae. Lampyridae, according to Xerces.org, means quote-unquote shining light in Latin. I think that is a very fitting name for this beetle. Speaking of beetles, Lampyridae is a family of insects that falls within the winged beetle order called Coleoptera. All in all, there are 2,400 species of firefly, and they can be found on every continent on Earth except for Antarctica, which makes quite a bit of sense to me. Not much lives in that desolate, cold landscape. Also, just so you know, Realm News will not be covering all 2,400 species in this episode today. I will focus primarily on the ones where I live. North America, where I reside, has around 120 firefly species, and they are the most studied in the world. The Photinus pyralis is considered to be the most common firefly that you tend to see in our backyards at night during the summers for those of us in North America. These are the species that inhabit my state of Kansas, and I am very familiar with them. I remember growing up and catching them as a kid and putting them in jars. I'm sure they didn't appreciate being caged, but I love to witness their wonderful display of bioluminescence. But did you know that most of the fireflies on Earth reside in tropical areas and are found in, quote, Central and South America and Asia, encompassing roughly 50% of the world's firefly diversity, end quote. And scientists are scrambling to document all the other species yet to be discovered. They are scrambling because fireflies are disappearing at an alarming rate. I would like to talk about the endangerment of fireflies for a moment before we go into some very fascinating facts about them that will encourage you to help save the firefly from extinction. Firefly.org has an entire page dedicated to explaining why fireflies are becoming less and less common to sight during their typical time of emergence. Unfortunately, scientists do not have a solid, concrete answer to why exactly fireflies are dying off. They have, boiled it down to two hypotheses: development and light pollution. The habitat that many species of fireflies flourish in is rotting wood and leaf litter that typically is near ponds, streams, and other water sources. When the larva grows up into adult fireflies, they tend to stay near their spawning point. I should point out that some firefly species are more aquatic than other firefly species, which prefer more arid climates and inhabit fields, forests, and marshes. But the firefly's overall ideal climate is a warm, humid area that has standing water, ponds, streams, and rivers. This is probably why I saw so many fireflies as a kid growing up in the middle of the Kansas Flint Hills. My childhood home had a creek that ran through a forest on the east side of the house. The north and west quadrants are surrounded by open fields that are rotated between soybean and wheat crops. These fields tend to hold pools of water after a good rain, which makes my childhood home the perfect spot for a firefly habitat. However, areas such as where I grew up are shrinking in North America due to increased urbanization, roadways, logging, pollution, pesticides, and human traffic. Humans are responsible for the destruction of the firefly habitats around the world, unfortunately. Yes, the whole planet is facing firefly endangerment. The second hypothesis is light pollution. Let's take a look into that next. Scientists still have a lot to learn about fireflies. From what I have read, it appears that they believe that light pollution may be disrupting how fireflies communicate with each other, thus leading to fewer offspring. The article goes on to say that male and female fireflies use their flashing lights to communicate with each other. Some of these species will even synchronize their flashes together as one large group. They've been witnessed up to thousands of fireflies being in harmony all at once, all synchronized in their flash. I love this term that they use, so I had to quote it. Quote, "All species speak a language of light." End quote. Talk about the original Morse code. Scientists believe that they use these strobing bioluminescent lights to attract mates, defend territory, and to ward off predators. Now that we know the basics behind the reasons why they strobe these lights, I must go on to say that human light pollution is theorized by scientists to be disrupting the way they communicate. For example, quote, "Scientists have observed that synchronous fireflies get out of sync for a few minutes after a car's headlights pass," end quote. They also theorize that lights from homes, stores, and street lights may also affect fireflies. If you want to help with preserving habitats for fireflies in order to help them flourish, then there are a few steps that you can take to help them out. There are several very easy ways to help improve or encourage a firefly habitat that I learned from firefly.org's website that I would like to share with you. As I have mentioned, fireflies are disappearing across North America, but they are also disappearing at a global scale. Some methods to help improve firefly populations are the following. Turn off outside lights at night. You can help decrease light pollution by shutting off outside patio lights, garden lights, any exterior lights, and shutting the blinds to prevent interior light from shining through the windows. Let logs and litter accumulate. Many species of firefly larvae grow up in leaf litter and rotting wood. Plant trees around your property, or if you have trees, possibly consider not picking up the leaf litter from underneath them. The next one, create water features in your landscape. Make water ponds with natural water without chemical additives. You could also build a small stream or just get creative. Next, don't use pesticides or chemicals outside. Another one, don't over lawn mow. And here's an interesting one. Don't introduce earthworms to your lawns. Yep, apparently the earthworm was last native to North America before the last ice age. They were reintroduced to North America by the Europeans around 300 years ago, and they are considered a pest to North America and responsible for the, quote, "the reduction in plant diversity and leaf litter affects the habitat and food availability of insects such as fireflies, which affects the food chain on up, reducing the food available to reptiles, amphibians, birds, and small mammals, end quote. These methods that I just listed off are thought to help promote healthy firefly habitats. Now that we know how to create a firefly habitat, let's hear some interesting facts surrounding this glowing, flying beetle. Now, I have mentioned that many species of fireflies communicate via light signals, but one thing I didn't mention is that the light emitted by fireflies is considered to be quote-unquote cold light. That's right. They call this cold light because 0% of the energy used to create the light is lost through heat, unlike the incandescent light bulb or the fluorescent light bulb. In fact, an incandescent light bulb only emits 10% light from all the energy it uses. The other 90% is wasted through heat. A fluorescent light bulb is much more efficient by emitting 90% of its energy as light and 10% as heat, but not nearly as efficient as the firefly's 100% light emission. The firefly relies on two chemicals that help it produce the light: luciferin and luciferase. Luciferin is heat resistant and will glow under the proper conditions. Luciferase is an enzyme that sets off the light emission. ATP, which all living animals on Earth have, converts the energy which ignites the glow. I should also mention that some species communicate without lights, but instead with pheromones. I just wanted to clarify that. And adults are not the only stage that a firefly glows in. Firefly larvae will also glow and have been witnessed to glow in response to a gentle tapping or other stimuli such as this. Another fact that I found interesting, if not disturbing, is that fireflies tend to eat each other. They eat other fireflies. They are carnivores and apparently cannibals as well. If that didn't make life more challenging for a firefly, their short lifespan doesn't help the matter. Fireflies live only long enough to mate and then they die. The adult firefly doesn't even live long enough to eat. It just mates and dies. The firefly's average lifespan is the following: 3 weeks as an egg. The larva stage lasts anywhere between 1 to 2 years. 3 weeks as a pupa. 3 to 4 weeks as an adult. Then the great equalizer, death. So I hope they get the most out of their life as a larva, because the rest seems very busy and very short. Before I wrap up the real segment of this week's show over fireflies, I would like to point out their medicinal uses in science. As I mentioned a moment ago, every animal has something called ATP in its cells that are at a somewhat constant level if the organism is healthy. And as I mentioned, luciferase and luciferin light up in the presence of ATP. Scientists can use this knowledge to detect disease cells by using these chemicals from the firefly. If the ATP is at an abnormal level in that organism's body, then it may have an underlying illness. This can be used to study diseases such as cancer and muscular dystrophy. If you thought that was amazing, then you will probably think this is pretty spectacular as well. Not only can luciferase and luciferin be used to detect diseases, but they also have many other applications as well. Detectors that use these chemicals have been fitted on spaceships in order to detect life in outer space. They are also used to detect spoiled food and bacterial contamination on Earth. So, the next time you are enjoying a summer night, gazing at the light show taking place out in the yard or where have you, perhaps raise your glass or give a nod to the firefly and thank them, not for only putting on a magical light display, but thank them for their amazing medicinal properties that are helping humanity. Perhaps you will consider not cleaning up those leaves under your trees and maybe put in a garden pond or some other water source to help develop their habitat more in order to help them flourish. I will leave all those links, all that information in the show description so you can donate to firefly.org or look up their resources to get involved. With that said, folks, that wraps up the real segment for today. I would like to now transition us over into the realm and look at the Minecraft Firefly Bush. Welcome to the realm, my friends. You are standing in Chamois, France, the second seat in my kingdom of Encandieu, and one of the largest cities in the realm. I bring you here today because Chamois is located on the ocean's edge and near a large swamp biome. This biome is home to many foul beasts, but there is a mystical bush in there that emits a beautiful array of glowing lights. I am talking about the Firefly Bush, and I would like to tell you all about it today. But before we dive into the current Firefly Bush, it is worth mentioning how it came to be in the game of Minecraft. It has a history to it and is not a new concept for Mojang. As the Dark Lord does, I dug up the fascinating history of the Firefly in Minecraft, and I must say that it is rather intriguing. It all started on October 16th, 2021, during the Minecraft Live event that took place that year. I went ahead and looked up that YouTube video and was able to find the exact mark where they mentioned the Firefly for the first time ever. It is presented to us at the 2 hour, 5 minute, and 39 second mark. It is a brief clip of Firefly mobs that are 2 pixels in size flying around the swamp biome. One half of them, or one of the 2 pixels, is a cube of black that is supposed to represent their thorax, and the other pixel cube would strobe from black to a soft yellow/green as fireflies create in real life. The cool thing about these is that they were an actual mob considered an anthropod, according to Minecraft.wiki. The Firefly mob was not only going to be a beautiful addition to the swamp and mangrove biomes in the wild update, but they were going to be the frog's food source. However, we learned on May 10th, 2022, during a video called Ask Mojang on YouTube that the Firefly was scrapped due to community feedback. Fireflies are poisonous to some species of frogs and toads, so they went ahead and removed that idea and put it in their concept library to review for later. And later was correct. It wasn't until January 4th, 2025, earlier this year, that we caught wind of a leak in the form of a pig and a firefly. You can find this at IBX Toy Cat's YouTube channel under the title Notch Confirms Minecraft 2 is Happening. At the 7-minute mark in that video, IBX Toy Cat points out a leak that was shared by a developer at Mojang who goes simply by John. John posted this, quote, "Just saw Phoenix's new video. It's abysmal. What passes for a leak nowadays? Here's a better one for the spring drop. Smiley face, and then a firefly emoji." End quote. And, quote, "Oh, also, pig emoji," end quote. He hinted towards what we now know as a spring to life drop, where they leaked to us the Firefly mob, which hinted towards the Firefly Bush in which we received. The pig emoji represents the pig variants that were added in this drop. It wasn't until January 29th that we were provided the 25W05A snapshot that presented to us the Firefly Bush for the first time, and the community was ecstatic over it. A couple of people's comments that I found on Twitter, now X, are, quote, "The Firefly Bush adds such a cozy vibe to my builds, perfect for riverside paths," end quote, by Minecrafter Jane. Here's another, quote, "Firefly Bush is peak Minecraft. Those glowing specks and potential sounds are amazing," end quote. That was from Blocky Dreamer. I loved it too when it was first shown to us, and I still do. The Firefly Bush was officially released in the Spring to Life 1.2 1.5 drop that occurred on March 25th, 2025. Now that we know the history of the Firefly Bush, let's examine its physical features and see where you can find them and what their uses are. The Firefly Bush is a very unique looking plant. It is renewable and stackable up to 64 per slot or per bundle. It is a decorative plant that emits firefly particles, and it also has strobes of light on the plant, indicating fireflies reside there and are attracted to it. The firefly particles will emit from the bush when light levels become dark enough, at a light level 13 or lower. According to Minecraft.wiki, a firefly bush has a 70% chance of emitting a firefly particle on each tick. In Java Edition, the particle can spawn up to 5 blocks horizontally and 5 blocks vertically from the bush. In Bedrock, the horizontal range is increased to 10 blocks. The particle lasts between 200 and 300 game ticks, fading in and out of opacity before disappearing. They do create just this beautiful continuous display of pixelated bioluminescence, in my opinion. I feel that the developers did a great job creating a realistic display of fireflies. This truly creates a magical ambiance for any build, biome, or for landscaping projects. Now that we know the Firefly Bush's physical properties, let's now look at where you can find them. The Firefly Bush is not a rare plant to come across in the overworld. Personally, after the Spring to Life drop released, it didn't take me much time to locate a few Firefly bushes in my, at the time, 2.5-year-old world, so 2.5-year-old world. Of course, I had to travel to an area of my empire that hadn't been explored yet, but that is why I leave sections of my empire unexplored, just for the new drops. I am sure that you have found a few already, but in case you haven't, let me tell you where you are most likely to find these interesting plants. Java actually has more available places for the Firefly Bush to spawn than Bedrock. They will grow in random patches on grass blocks near water in most of the Java overworld. They will also generate on mud blocks in mangrove swamps. Bedrock, on the other hand, is more limited on where Firefly bushes generate. They will generate on grass blocks near water, but you will not find them in Badlands, eroded Badlands, and wooded Badlands. Apparently, they generate in those biomes in Java Edition. After you find one or a patch of them, you can easily pluck them out of the ground with your bare hands. They will break and drop as the bush itself, and you can relocate that bush or bushes wherever you please. Here are all the blocks that you can place them on: grass block, mycelium, podzol, dirt, coarse dirt, rooted dirt, farmland, mud, muddy mangrove roots, moss block, pale moss block. So, quite a few options to choose from. I have personally placed them in my capital city of Seatown, in Limnos, where my palace, Lord's Landing, is located, and in several other towns across my realm of Empereur. If you do not want to find a Firefly bush, then you are able to trade for one with a wandering trader. They will sell you one Firefly bush for 3 emeralds. Not a horrible deal. The Minecraft.wiki mentions a couple of times that the Firefly bush is primarily a decorative plant, but it does have some practical uses, such as for composting. If you place one of the Firefly bushes in a composter, it has a chance of raising it up 1 level by 30%. A stack of Firefly bushes will, on average, produce 2.74 bone meal, which to me isn't worth it. I would recommend using them for a landscaping project or to enhance atmosphere of your base or something other than throwing them into a composter. Just anything but that. I should also add that the Firefly bushes offer more than just a beautiful light display at night. They also create ambient sounds. And I have been loving that Mojang has been adding in so many ambient sounds this year. It all started with the Garden Awakens drop back in December 3rd, 2024. Since then, they have been adding more and more ambient sounds, which makes the game much more immersive in my opinion. At night, along with the Firefly lights, the bush will emit a buzzing sound, giving the insects a sound along with the light show. I think this is just amazing, and I love that the developers put in the extra effort. With that said, folks, that wraps up all I have on the Firefly Bush this week. I just want to thank you all for tuning into the latest Realm news, the Firefly episode. I found it all to be extremely fascinating. Who would have thought that the chemicals luciferase and luciferin, which are used to produce a glowing light when introduced to ATP, could also be used to detect certain diseases, life forms in space, and bacterial threats to our food supply? Simply amazing. However, I was saddened to learn that Firefly numbers are dwindling at a global scale. I remember growing up as a kid and seeing them all the time in the summers. I would hate to see future generations miss out on such an amazing experience. Hopefully, people will start to create Firefly-friendly habitats after hearing this. If I had a yard, I would certainly do my best to keep them around. Also, the Firefly Bush in Minecraft is just a great addition to the overworld's ecosystem. I know that it made the Minecraft community just very happy when we received them, and that includes me. Let me know how you use the Firefly bushes in your world by going to bio.link/realm news and click on any of the socials there, email, or become a Patreon member and let me know there. With that said, folks, I wish you all a great rest of your day and happy crafting. The Dark Lord. Signing out. Hey, Realm News fans, it's your host, the Dark Lord, the one who puts the real in Realm and expands your mind one block at a time. I am here to tell you that your support means everything. Spread the word by telling friends, liking, and commenting on Spotify or Good Pods. Find me on X, Blue Sky, Reddit, or via email at bio.link/realm news. For more content, join my Patreon at the Copper, Diamond, and VIP tiers for early episodes, bonus content, and newsletters. Find out more at bio.link/realm news. No pressure, though. Just keep listening, liking, and sharing. That's more than enough. Happy crafting, and see you at the next Realm News.